Hello, this is The Briefing. We're live from Windsor Castle. I'm Sally Bundock. We're bringing you our special coverage of the build-up to Saturday's royal wedding. Counting down to the picture-perfect match, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle prepare for their big day. We'll have the latest on last-minute rehearsals. With thousands of royal fans expected to line these streets, the question everyone is asking is who will walk Meghan down the aisle after she confirms her father is recovering from a heart operation. And we'll meet people from Meghan's hometown in the USA, where her old school neighbours and friends will hold a unique party for the royal couple. In business, happy couple, happy economy, from tourism to tea towels to trade, why the royal wedding could give a welcome boost to British business. A very warm welcome to the programme on what is expected to be another glorious day here in Windsor. In this hour, we're going to tell you all you need to know about the royal wedding, other news, business and sport. And as ever, we'd love you to be a part of the conversation. Today, we're asking, with one day left to go, are you embracing the wedding fever? Are you draped in bunting, setting up your own street party? Or have you had enough? Is it too much for you? Get in touch, use the hashtag BBC The Briefing. So, as we have mentioned, just 24 hours to go now until Harry and Meghan tie the knot, or the morning of the day they tie the knot. Speculation is mounting about who will walk Miss Markle down the aisle after it was confirmed that her father will not attend. Many believe the honour will fall to her mother, Doria Ragland, who'll meet the Queen later today, accompanied by her daughter and future royal son-in-law. Other members of the royal family are also in Windsor ahead of the wedding, including the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. Here's our royal correspondent, Nicholas Witchell.
The months of planning are very nearly over. A chapel with a history which stretches back across the centuries will stage a wedding which will be watched by audiences stretching around the globe. Harry and Meghan were at the castle yesterday afternoon for a final run-through with the bridesmaids and page boys. On the streets of Windsor, the best seats have already been bagged. The military have been through their paces, rehearsing the carriage procession which will take the newly married Harry and Meghan, weather permitting in an open carriage, through the streets of Windsor. The stage is pretty much set. The principal players are more or less assembled, but it's still not clear who will perform one important role. Who, in the absence of the bride's father, Thomas Markle, will walk Meghan up the aisle. The most obvious candidate is Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland. She was at Windsor Castle yesterday and she'll be meeting the Queen there this afternoon. Another possibility is that Prince Charles could escort Meghan to the altar. It would be a significant gesture of welcome to the family's newest member. We should know today. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News, Windsor.
So, as we've mentioned, today is the final day ahead of the wedding. So any last-minute preparations that need to be done, need to get done today. We've already mentioned there's already members of the royal family here in Windsor. As you can see, Windsor's waking up. It'll soon get extremely busy here. There is so much security here around the clock already, and part of the road closures are going to expand out from the centre of Windsor as today progresses. Of course, course, we've already seen people, members of the public, who are camping here down the long walk to in that direction. They're getting ready to make sure they have the prime spot to see the newly married couple as they do the procession in the carriage, a long walk after the wedding tomorrow. The wedding is at 12 noon, but guests are expected to arrive here at Windsor Castle from around about 9:30 tomorrow morning, with the prime members of the royal family, should I say, arriving around about 11 o'clock. Well, the royal wedding fever may well be building up here in Windsor, but as our Los Angeles correspondent James Cook has been finding out, it's attracting just as much attention across the pond.
At Meghan Markle's old school in Los Angeles, the festivities have begun early. A royal garden party, California style. There was even a corgi, as well as a double helping of red, white and blue.
I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think that she best represents our motto, our school motto, which is educating the hearts and minds of girls for 100 years. And through her humanitarian efforts through World Vision, I think that she best embodies that.
She's such an inspiration, definitely, to all, for princess reasons and for acting reasons, definitely.
Yeah, why is she an inspiration to you?
She's definitely an inspiration to me because she went to my school. She also went to my elementary school, too. And so I feel like I'm following in her footsteps, and it definitely makes it so inspiring because, like, you never know what could be next in your life. And for her, it's princess.
Well, this celebration is a curious combination of British tradition and American exuberance, and it also marks a golden PR opportunity for a family which carefully crafts the image which it projects to the world.
In Hollywood, where Meghan made her name, tourists signed a card for the happy couple. But what do locals make of it all?
I've been following the royal wedding, and I'm very excited for, is it Meghan? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very excited for Meghan, so yeah, it's awesome.
Why are you interested?
It's the big news. I mean, it's the royal wedding. I mean, who would be excited?
What do you think of the royal family?
I don't care too much. I did watch The Crown.
What did you think of that?
I loved it.
I think it's a great thing that the royals are diversifying and starting to look like the rest of the world. Because personally, here in America, we don't believe in that, royal stuff. Everybody's created equal. They should be working just like I'm working.
And action?
Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Marlise.
And I'm Elise.
And welcome to a royal wedding dish. Harry's getting married to an American actress.
These Americans are excited.
I'm just wild about Harry, and Harry's wild about Meg. Woo!
For the Anglophile channel broadcasting from Los Angeles, it doesn't get bigger than this.
It's like a local girl done good. So I think the interest in America is so great because it's one of our own, marrying into the royal family. And an American divorcee hasn't married successfully into the royal family since it almost brought the British monarchy down with Wallis Simpson in the 30s.
For many Americans, the monarchy is a soap opera. And even though the wedding starts at 4 a.m. LA time, there'll be plenty of viewers here for the episode with the Hollywood princess. James Cook, BBC News, Los Angeles.
So as you were hearing there from James, there's so much excitement and attention on this wedding in the United States. No surprise at all, given the fact that Meghan Markle is from the US. And of course, that in itself is groundbreaking for the royal family. Here at Windsor, as you can see, the sun is coming up now. The last wedding to take place here at Windsor Castle was in 2008, and that was the Queen's grandson, Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son, who got married here to Autumn Kelly. And prior to that, of course, a few years earlier in 2005, it was the wedding of the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. There's been many weddings here at Windsor Castle. This castle is very used to hosting these very elaborate, extraordinary and historic events. And in terms of how this impacts the UK. There is so much discussion about how the UK economy is benefiting from the royal family. If we turn to the business angle now, could it be a case of happy couple, happy economy? Well, according to consultants Brand Finance, the wedding could bring well over $1 billion to the UK. It says as well as the obvious benefits in increased tourism and merchandise sales, we should also factor in the positive impact on Britain's global brand. Well, let's talk to Richard Griffiths, who is a regular on the briefing. He's Corporate Communications Director at the global PR firm Ketchum. Nice to see you, Richard. I mean, this kind of event is a gift, isn't it, for PR?
It is a gift for PR, and just to give you an example, many brands are cashing in. If you changed your name to Meghan today, or I changed my name to, if I was to change my name to Harry and you to Meghan, we could actually walk into the British Airways first class lounge tomorrow for free ahead of our flight. So that's an example of how British Airways are cashing in. But as you say, the economic statisticians have been looking at this, and they've come up with some pretty eye-watering numbers. So Brand Finance, for example, they're estimating that the wedding could lead to a near $500 million increase in tourism. Airbnb, they've also been putting their heads together in terms of the impact that it might have on tourism. They're estimating that this weekend alone, their hosts will be taking in an estimated 42,000 guests. That's just over the next 2 or 3 days. And we shouldn't forget that this may seem like a bit of fun, a bit of frippery, but tourism is big business for the UK. It's worth something like $171.5 billion every year. Now, many people will also be asking, what will the longer term impact be beyond this weekend alone? We see on British high streets at the moment, there are a number of retailers that are pulling very simple stunts like putting Union Jacks out there on their frontages. But what's the long-term benefit going to be? Because overall, over the next sort of year or two and beyond, we could see more tourism, more tourists flock to Britain as a result of the excitement of this weekend. But let's see what happens.
All right, thanks a lot, Richard. We'll see you later. Just an interesting fact that I picked up when it comes to the cost of royal weddings. There was a Freedom of Information request following Kate and William's wedding, which of course took place in central London, and the cost of policing their wedding was £6.35 million. We'll talk about the costs of the wedding later, because of course it's not quite clear how much it all costs. The royal family never divulges those facts, but we will discuss that in detail later in Business Briefing. Now, we've got lots more for you on the royal wedding in a moment, but first let's brief you on some of the other stories in the news today. The World Health Organization is meeting in Geneva later today to decide if the outbreak of the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo should be treated as an international threat. 25 deaths are being investigated and more than 40 people have shown symptoms of infection. The virus has now been found in a busy port in the city. For the first time in the CIA's history, a woman will lead the agency. Gina Haspel, who's a CIA veteran, has been confirmed by US senators as its director. Many politicians opposed her nomination. Ms. Haspel once ran a secret prison in Thailand where terror suspects were subjected to waterboarding. High levels of toxic gas have forced emergency workers on Hawaii's Big Island to retreat following the latest eruption of the Mount Kilauea volcano. People have been warned to get away from a sulfur dioxide cloud which is killing large swathes of vegetation. And police in Malaysia say they've made a massive seizure of cash, jewellery and designer handbags in raids on homes and offices linked to the former Prime Minister Najib Razak. Mr. Najib and his wife were banned from leaving the country after he unexpectedly lost power in elections last week. He's denied any wrongdoing. You're with The Briefing. We are at Windsor Castle with one day to go before the royal wedding. Do stay with us on the programme. We've got plenty more for you, including the other big day. We meet Claire and Dan, who'll also be tying the knot on Saturday as well.
The Pope was shot, the Pope will live. That's the essence of the appalling news from Rome this afternoon that, as an Italian television commentator put it, terrorism had come to the Vatican.
The man they called the Butcher of Lyon, Klaus Barbie, went on trial today in the French town where he was the Gestapo chief in the Second World War.
Winnie Mandela never looked like a woman just sentenced to 6 years in jail. The judge told Mrs. Mandela there was no indication she felt even the slightest remorse.
The Chinese government has called for an all-out effort to help the victims of a powerful earthquake, the worst to hit the country for 30 years.
The computer Deep Blue has tonight triumphed over the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. It's the first time a machine has defeated a reigning world champion in a classical chess match.
America's first legal same-sex marriages have been taking place in Massachusetts.
God bless America!
We've lost Sally just for a moment there, but you're watching The Briefing here on BBC News, of course. Our headlines today: Prince Harry and Meghan Markle prepare for their big day on Saturday. We'll have the latest on last-minute rehearsals. Still no word yet as to who will walk down the aisle with Meghan Markle.
Thank you, David, for filling there for just a moment. We are live here at Windsor Castle and we are subject to the odd technical glitch every now and then, but we're back. And we just want to talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, which may well be making headlines, but it isn't the only one taking place on Saturday. Jane McCubbin has been to meet one of the couples sharing their special day.
Meet not Meghan and Harry, but Claire and Dan.
It's the Ginger Prince, yeah.
He's your Ginger
Prince?
Prince?
Yes, he's my more Geordie version of Prince Harry.
Ginger Prince of the North.
This fairy tale romance was built not in Windsor, but in Gateshead. On the Stag and Hen Do's, Claire was crowned his princess, Dan her sumo cycling Ginger Prince. And the Mams could not be more excited.
What did you think about the clash of dates? Was it a problem?
We'd had ours arranged for about a year, but then when they mentioned me, I just thought, I bet it's the same date.
They stole the day, but they weren't going to steal it totally because they're not going to have as much fun as we are.
This young man is very, very excited. Dan's son James is best man and will be giving out the rings. They hope.
It's going to be special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eyes trump me hand. This is my ring.
I don't think it is your ring.
My ring. Come at me.
And another member of the family is wrestling with something else.
My Auntie Sharon.
I've got a little bit of a collection. Me thimbles of all the royal family.
She's so big on the royals.
The biggest thing, me royal romances, I collect them.
And when William and Kate got married and she cried, and when Harry announced he was getting married, she was so excited.
We've got a doll. It is Kate. It's a limited edition.
And then it was like, you get married on the same day as Prince Harry, you know. And then she was excited, and then she was like, I'm not going to be able to watch that wedding.
I'll have to just record it.
Are you secretly gutted or are you secretly made up?
No, I'm gutted.
She'd be sitting in church with a live stream on that for one.
No, I don't put that in. I'm made up because I want to go to my niece's wedding.
You know I'm going to have to put that in.
No, don't.
While 2 billion will watch the other wedding, a select 200 will watch this main event. And as for Auntie Sharon...
Honestly, I'm just so excited.
Well, there's always catch up.
Definitely.
Jane McCubbin, BBC News.
So we wish them all the best tomorrow. May they also have an absolutely fantastic day. Let's pause on our royal wedding coverage just for a few minutes and bring you all the very latest sports news. It's over to the BBC Sports Centre.
Hello there, I'm Tolson Tollett. Coming up in your Friday sport briefing, NHL's debut franchise, the Vegas Golden Knights, look to continue their incredible season as they search for a maiden Stanley Cup title. Rafael Nadal heads out in the quarterfinals of the Rome Masters, and Mohamed Salah's boots line up in London next to ancient Egyptian artefacts. It's Game 4 of NHL's Western Conference Finals on Friday, with the Vegas Golden Knights knowing that a victory will put them within touching distance of a Stanley Cup final in their first season. A 4-2 victory over the Winnipeg Jets on Wednesday has given them a 2-1 lead in the best-of-7 series. Stage 13 of the Giro d'Italia is expected to be another one for the sprinters, and that could mean back-to-back triumphs for Ireland's Sam Bennett. He triumphed on the Imola race circuit on Thursday for his second victory of the year's first Grand Tour. Friday's trek to Navesa de la Battaglia is largely flat, meaning leader Simon Yates should hold on to his pink jersey. Rafael Nadal will play clay court specialist Fabio Fognini in the quarterfinals of the Rome Masters on Friday, bidding for an 8th title in the Italian capital. Nadal, down to number 2 in the world after his loss in Madrid last week, eased past Canada's Denis Shapovalov in straight sets, but surprisingly hasn't actually won the title in Rome since 2013.
It was a tough first set. No, it's true that I had 15-40 and a couple of break points in the first game, 15-40 and a couple of break points in the second game when I was returning. Then I didn't make it that break points, and then everything was become a little bit tougher. No, so happy for the victory against a difficult opponent, and let's see. Just excited to be in the quarterfinals again.
Another mouth-watering matchup on Friday sees French Open champion Elena Ostapenko face 5-time Grand Slam winner Maria Sharapova. The Russian booked her spot in the last 8 by beating Australia's Daria Gavrilova in straight sets. The second round of the Belgian knockout gets underway shortly, and hopefully we'll be able to split some of those at the top of the leaderboard. There's no fewer than 7 players tied on 4 under par. One of them is a local as well. Belgium's Thomas Dietrich hit 3 birdies on his final 3 holes on Thursday to move up to a share of the lead. Italy goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon will play his final game for Juventus on Saturday after 17 years with the club. The 40-year-old who won the World Cup in 2006 will lift his 9th Serie A title after the game. Buffon says he's received job offers both on and off the pitch.
My fear was to reach the end of my career being a sort of burden to Juventus, like a player with a broken engine. I can say that's not been like this. I'm proud to have put in great performances honouring my name and Juventus into my 40s. I have already said that I've received some interesting offers of work on and off the pitch. Next week, in a less emotional setting than this, I'll decide what's best for me.
And after a record-breaking debut season for Liverpool, Mohamed Salah has had yet another honour bestowed upon him. Already the Golden Boot winner with a record number of goals, voted Players' Player of the Year, Football Writers' Player of the Year, the Egyptian is now having his boots displayed alongside objects from ancient Egypt at the British Museum in the run-up to the Champions League final. Now you can get all the latest sports news at our website, that's bbc.com/sport. But from me, Tolson Tollett, that is your Friday Sport Briefing.
Our thanks to Tolson for that. So let's talk you through tomorrow, and in particular the moment when the public will be able to take a look at the newly married couple. So the service, which will take place at St George's Chapel just round the corner here at Windsor Castle, will conclude at around 1 o'clock, and then the couple will come out of the church. They'll acknowledge the 200 representatives of Princess Harry's charities who gathered in the cloister, and then they'll set off in their carriage. Close family members will wave them off. It'll take about 25 minutes, and as you can see here, the route will take them through Windsor itself, and then they'll go up what's called Long Walk, which is where most of the public will be gathered to catch a glimpse of Harry and Meghan. Now, you may remember the cake. It's a very unusual, non-traditional wedding cake, a little bit like the couple themselves. It's going to be a special installation, we're told. Elderflower and lemon layers of it in 3 parts of varying sizes, but that is all they are telling us at this point. They want it to be a surprise. We asked you to get in touch with your thoughts. Are you enjoying this moment? Are you going to have a street party, or are you a little bit fed up with this royal wedding fever? So we've heard from many of you. You've been in touch. We've got Blue Flamingo says, because most of us saw Harry grow up, we've seen him go from a boy to a man, we want him to be happy. We're getting involved, we're loving it. We've got another one, Music Flower, who says, because nearly everyone loves a wedding, why should we not enjoy some happiness and rainbows every so often? Lighten up and smell the roses, says that particular viewer. We've got Nancy, who says, because he's a great guy, he cares about people, and because he's Diana's son. Just to say, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm hosting a street party in my cosy cul-de-sac, so I've got to put bunting up myself tomorrow morning. We'll be back very shortly with more from Windsor Castle. Also, of course, we've got business briefing coming up too, when we're going to take a look at the costs and the benefits of such a big occasion to the UK economy. Stay with us here on BBC News.
Hello there. What a gorgeous day up and down the country on Thursday. Lots of sunshine around. There was a bit of a chill to the air, but we're in that strong May sunshine. It felt very pleasant. So many gorgeous weather watcher pictures coming through. Lovely sunset scenes as well up and down the country. And overnight, it looks like those temperatures will fall away once again under those clear skies, particularly eastern Scotland, England and Wales. A few rural places could see close to freezing with a touch of frost, but less so for Friday morning across Scotland and Northern Ireland. That's because I have more cloud here, maybe the odd shower. But we start Friday off on another gorgeous note for many. Chilly start, but lots of sunshine around, certainly for England and Wales. A bit more cloud for Northern Ireland and for Scotland, maybe the odd shower here. So that will have an impact on the temperatures, 16 or 17 degrees, but further south we have that sunshine. Highs of 18 or 19 Celsius. So high pressures dominating the scene again as we head on in towards the weekend, trying to keep these weather fronts out at bay. So, of course, for the big day, Saturday, the royal wedding at Windsor, it's looking good. Another fairly chilly start, but there'll be lots of sunshine through the day. It should stay dry with the top temperature into the afternoon, maybe 20 or 21 Celsius. This is the picture for Saturday, though. Lots of sunshine around, including Scotland and Northern Ireland. A bit more cloud just rolling into the northwest of Scotland. More of a breeze here as the day wears on. But that really is about it. Most places, apart from some fair weather cloud, will be dry. Lots of sunshine. A top temperature of 21, maybe 22 Celsius. Now, as we head on towards Sunday, high pressure dominates the scene for most, but we do see these weather fronts making inroads into the north and the west of the country. So it does mean a bit more of a disappointing second half of the weekend for Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland. More of a breeze, thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain. We should see some glimmers of brightness across northeast Scotland, certainly for England and Wales. Another gorgeous looking day with temperatures up a notch again, perhaps 22 or 23 Celsius. As we head on into the start of next week then, high pressure still with us, but again this weather front plaguing the northwest corner of the country means thicker cloud here once again with outbreaks of rain. The further south and east that you are, a better and a drier, a sunnier day it will be. Maybe there's a chance into the afternoon, the odd sharp shower developing across the southeast, but again most places will be dry and it'll feel warmer, the top temperature of 23 or maybe 24 Celsius.
Come on, you're the vicar. You should have some marriage advice.
Making the bed.
Spice up your life. Have fun.
Yeah. Locate a really good babysitter.
You certainly have to be best friends.
That they play with almost every day.
Give up the TV remote when you have to.
And try not to moan.
The best way to say I love you is kiss them.
Kisses for Harry and Meghan?
Oh, how could you ever say I love you too much?
A few weeks ago you told me.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
I love you. That's the first time in 50 years.
The Royal Wedding, Saturday on the BBC News Channel.
Not many pictures get so famous that everybody knows them. But no one is entirely sure what it's trying to say.
Valdemar Janostak is on a road trip from the Wild West to the far side of American art.
Take you riding in my car, car, I'll take you riding in my car.
And discovering why this could only be made here. Big sky, big dreams, big art. Made in the USA starts Wednesday at 9 on BBC4.
When I was 7 years old, I was forced into a system I knew nothing about. I was held as a slave in a religious shrine to pay for the sins of a relative. This is my journey to understand why. Our World, My Stolen Childhood, Saturday and Sunday on the BBC News Channel.
Hello, this is Business Briefing. I'm David Eades. A $200 billion olive branch. China offers to slash its massive trade gap with the US. The question is, how? Plus, happy couple means happy economy. From tourism to tea towels to trade, why the royal wedding could give a welcome boost to British business. And as for the markets, well, the US ended lower, just a little bit lower, on concerns over the China-US trade talks. Asian shares, well, they've been holding their breath a bit as well, but just creeping up as we get reports of possible progress towards a deal there. So let's start in Washington, where President Trump has been meeting with China's Vice Premier Liu He to try to reboot what he sees as a hugely unfair trading relationship between the two sides. Now, the White House has been threatening some punitive tariffs on Chinese goods. Beijing promising to retaliate, of course, raising fears of a destructive trade war between the two biggest economies in the world. Now, the big issue for the White House is that US trade deficit with China. We're talking some pretty big numbers here. The US buying from China compared to the other way round. Now, that deficit was $375 billion last year. President Trump's wants it slashed by that much, $200 billion, within the next couple of years. Well, according to reports, China is now prepared to agree to that. How it's going to be achieved, though, that's another matter, as Kim Gittleson in New York explains.
The problem is when it comes to U.S. exports, it would actually be very difficult to significantly increase the amount that the U.S. exports to China without significantly lowering the amount it exports, say, to the European Union or Canada or Mexico. So while the headline figure might be something that China says, sure, okay, we'll buy $200 billion more of goods, that actually might be significantly difficult to practically achieve here in the United States.
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? With me is Dr. Sam Foles, who's a fellow at the Foreign Policy Centre. Sam, thanks very much for coming in.
Morning.
$200 billion is a huge amount. It would take a big effort. Can you see a way in which China could do that?
Frankly, not. I think that for China to achieve that would require the Chinese economy going backwards to mid-2000s levels. I think realistically, these concessions are likely to be mainly illusory.
We've described it as an olive branch, but President Trump tends to grab hold of these things. He'll expect it now. He'll want it. There has to be something done, doesn't there, to show that goodwill?
Well, 2 points. First, that China has used this as a sort of illusory concession as a tactic before in these negotiations. Back in April, promising market access that had actually been announced in 2016. And because of the political pressures on Trump, he was very keen to grab at that and call it a win. The other point is that Trump needs China's help in his negotiations with North Korea. Kim Jong-un met with the Chinese in Beijing this week, last week even, and I think that Trump will have a powerful motive to take things a little more at face value than he might perhaps if he was buying a hotel.
Right, so as we were sort of thinking, 200 billion, that's a huge amount of money. There'll need to be some big products in there, some big projects, maybe Boeing could get a deal, etc. You think that really is pie in the sky, at least at this stage?
Well, I'm sure we will see some headline deals. I mean, and Boeing would be an obvious example of that. But In order to achieve this by 2020, you need American exports to grow at something like 15% per year, or Chinese imports to reduce by an equal amount. It's not clear there's the capacity in the American economy to do that, and B, very little motivation domestically for China to keep to it.
Well, we wait to see how it develops. Sam, thanks very much indeed for that.
Thank you.
We're going to stay on the story, though. It does seem China is prepared to offer, well, one key concession to reduce trade tensions. The Commerce Ministry says it's dropping measures against a key American cereal import. Rico Hizon is following this for us in Singapore. Rico, good to see you. Reveal all. What are they going to do?
It is sorghum. David, Beijing has dropped its anti-dumping and anti-subsidy probe into U.S. sorghum imports. For many that don't know what sorghum is, it is a cereals crop used to feed pigs and in the distilling process for liquor. Trade is worth around $1 billion, David, to U.S. exporters, with growers centered in states which are key to President Trump's electoral support, like Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. So Beijing had claimed that its domestic industry was substantially damaged by the import of cheap U.S. sorghum that has dumped on to China's market. Beijing's move is a possible olive branch as the two countries hold tense trade talks. As you were discussing earlier, China is offering U.S. President Donald Trump a package of trade concessions, and this is one of them, and increased purchases of American goods aimed at cutting that U.S. trade deficit with the mainland. Negotiations seem to be moving forward, so it looks like things are looking positive this weekend. David.
That's something, isn't it? I suppose it's going to be a big olive tree if that's one of the branches.
Yes.
You're going to need a few more branches on the tree. Rico,
Absolutely.
good to see you. Thanks very much indeed. OK, we're going to turn to what is our top news story now, because the royal wedding is just a day away, if you hadn't noticed, and there are predictions that the UK economy will receive a very welcome boost. According to consultants Brand Finance, the wedding could bring in well over $1 billion to the UK, and it says, as well as the obvious benefits in more tourism, merchandise sales, that's a commemorative toot, as my producer calls it, we should also factor in the positive impact on Britain's global brand. Sally Bundock is part of Britain's global brand, of course, and she's at Windsor Castle. Sally, we rather love all these, the figures, don't we? Very difficult to quantify, nonetheless.
It's very difficult to quantify, and also, of course, it's never made public how much these royal occasions actually cost, because the royal family picks up part of the tab and they never tell us how much they spend on these events. So in terms of what the royal family is paying for this wedding, they've said the core aspects, so they're going to pay for the service in the church, music, flowers, decoration, reception, the carriage, etc. But when it comes to the real costs, it's estimated that this event could be costing around £32 million. And of course, the royal family doesn't pay for all of that. Prince William and Catherine's wedding was said to have cost about $24 million, and the security alone for their wedding, we know that cost £6.35 million, because that, of course, was divulged in a freedom of information request. And security is a huge cost. Thames Valley Police is kind of most of the boots on the ground here behind me in Windsor this weekend, and of course they've been here for days. So we've got 100,000 people expected here tomorrow. So yes, that's an idea of the cost.
And in terms of merchandising, I mean, you said you've got a street party coming up. Think of how many more barrels of beer are being bought across the country, bottles of bubbly, etc.
Absolutely. In terms of the benefits, so we've talked about the costs. In terms of the benefits to the UK economy, again, it's very hard to estimate. You've mentioned one figure of £1 billion boost to the UK economy. That's in terms of the benefit, in terms of brand Britain, the boost to Visit Britain. Of course, we're broadcasting all over the world, and this is a huge marketing event for Britain. It's expected to boost tourism not just now, but in the years ahead, for years to come. But also the retail industry will get a serious boost. Hospitality will also, tourism, Consumer confidence will be lifted, it's thought, because this will bring a feel-good factor and that may cause us to spend more money. One thing that won't suffer is productivity. Nobody's taking a day off for this event. If people aren't working, it's on a Saturday, they recover on the Sunday, they should be back at work Monday. So productivity shouldn't take a dip this time around.
OK, let's see what happens. Sally, thank you very much indeed. We're going to brief you now on some of the other business stories doing the rounds. The US media giant CBS has lost an initial court battle in a dispute with one of its biggest shareholders over control of the firm. A Delaware judge on Thursday lifted a temporary restraining order against the investor National Amusements, which is owned by the Redstone family and has been pushing CBS to merge with Viacom. The first fund aimed at encouraging gender diversity among UK companies has been launched by Legal and General Investment Management. The fund will favour shares in firms that have the best record on gender diversity, including the number of women at board and executive level. PayPal has bought Swedish mobile payments company Izettle for $2.2 billion. Izettle, which sells a card reader aimed at small businesses, had been planning to float on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. The move boosts PayPal's in-store presence at a time when competition in the online payment sector is certainly increasing. Look now at what is trending in the business news this morning in the Financial Times. Hidden value in phones could cut the US trade deficit in half. Google's chief economist saying that the way that trade figures are calculated simply doesn't reflect the complexity of modern business. So software developed in Silicon Valley, like Google's Android, is in phones all over the world, although they are usually counted simply as made in China. In Business Insider, Boeing, the US's largest exporter, is poised to be the biggest winner in China's pledge to cut the US trade deficit by that figure of $200 billion. In Wired, intriguing one, this, inside the bitter war to bring Tupac and Michael Jackson back to life. Concerts involving dead celebrities reincarnated as holograms are big business. Don't forget to do let us know what you're spotting online. Hashtag for you, BBC The Briefing. And that is pretty much it for the business briefing for this hour. Before we go, we'll have a quick look at the markets. The Dow was down a little bit flat over concerns about the US-China talks. That may change a bit because we've seen it changing gradually in Asia as well. We've got news briefing coming up in a moment. Police forces are warning that they're struggling to recruit specialist firearms officers because of the intense scrutiny they face if they use their weapons. The warning comes as the police watchdog said a firearms officer must face a gross misconduct hearing after a man was shot dead in North London 3 years ago. Our Home Affairs correspondent Leila Natu reports.
In December 2015, Jermaine Baker was part of a group trying to break out an inmate from a prison van. Armed police were sent to stop them, and during the operation, he was shot dead. It turned out he didn't have a weapon, but an imitation gun was found in the back of the car he was in.
1 hour negotiation! Explain that to me! Yeah?
His death stoked tensions in a community already wary of police. After an independent investigation, no criminal charges were brought against the officer who fired the fatal shot, and the Met refused to discipline him. But today, the police watchdog has directed the force to begin gross misconduct proceedings against the officer involved. This is where armed police moved in on Jermaine Baker and his two accomplices. They were parked here. One officer made the decision to open fire. He'll now have to explain himself and could lose his job. But the union representing officers in the Met Police says the fear of going through that kind of process is putting people off the roll. For these officers in Birmingham, this is just a routine training exercise. 2 years ago, in light of the terror threat, the Home Office provided extra money for hundreds more like them across England and Wales. But today, police revealed that the target of 1,000 new recruits by this year has been missed, and senior officers are clear why. This is one of the most demanding jobs in policing.
They know that any wrong move could have fatal consequences. Leila Nathu, BBC News.
You're watching The Briefing from BBC News with me, David Eades. The latest headlines. A picture-perfect match. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle prepare for their big day. There's been no word yet as to who will walk down the aisle with Miss Markle. Right, time now to have a look at the stories that are making the headlines in media across the world. Let's just say, to start with, the story. We begin with the Telegraph. It is in full royal wedding fever mode. The paper says the mother of Meghan Markle, Doria Ragland, is now the most likely candidate to accompany the bride-to-be on her walk up the aisle. Le Figaro in France calls it the marriage that will shake up the British monarchy, and the paper points to Miss Markle's mixed heritage, the fact that she's a divorcee, as evidence of the modernisation of the royal family. However, an opinion piece in the Washington Post rather disputes the notion that this particular marriage is going to help make Britain appear more progressive. According to the writer here, the heavy restrictions placed on political speech and activities by members of the royal family will stifle any real changes being made. As for the South China Morning Post, well, it says the royal wedding frenzy around the world is rooted in the legacy of the British Empire, and it asks why so little attention is paid to the weddings of other royal families from Asia and continental Europe. Finally, the Shortlist website asks what kind of a man enjoys the royal wedding more than the FA Cup final. Chelsea and Manchester United face stiff competition, of course, from the royal family for attention. They'll be facing each other at Wembley Stadium for the biggest football cup, at least, the Knockout Cup of the year. Right, let's chew over all that. Such a wide variety of subjects for Richard Griffiths to get his teeth into. Corporate Communications Director at global PR firm Ketchum.
Hi,
I shouldn't be so cynical. That was wrong. A bad start. Because actually, there is a very wide range of perspective on coverage, isn't it? I think it makes sense to start with, let's just go straight into the fever, as the Telegraph is calling it, the wedding fever, throwing up nonetheless some of these still unanswered questions about how's it all going to fit together for Meghan Markle in particular?
Absolutely. So just in case you've missed the last few minutes or the last 45 minutes, the big event tomorrow, 12 noon, Saturday the 19th of May, the location, St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, for the big wedding of Harry and Meghan Markle. And the big story all week, sort of just going back over the last few days, has really pivoted around whether Meghan's father would actually make it to the wedding. There's been some flip-flopping. We thought he'd come, then he wasn't going to. And yesterday we had confirmation from Kensington Palace that Thomas Markle will not be coming to the wedding. So the big question this morning is who is going to walk her down the aisle, and we are expecting confirmation this morning of who that will be. On the front of the Telegraph, they're starting to cite the runners and the riders, and it looks most likely, we'll get confirmation later, that it will be her mother, Doria Ragland, who of course flew from Los Angeles earlier in the week. Apparently yesterday she had tea with the Prince of Wales, and it looks likely that she will be the most likely candidate to walk Meghan up the aisle. There was some suggestion, you may have seen earlier in the week, that it could have been Prince Charles, because she gets on famously apparently with Prince Charles. But it looks like, I think the most likely option is a mum will be doing the honours.
It's classic coverage these days that we're not just addressing the issue. It's about who's the bookie's favourite, who's the candidate that's most likely to... all the language, the whole sort of hubbub around it is different. Sally's joining us from Windsor as well. Is this the day, Sally, that Meghan's mum meets the Queen?
Yes, absolutely, which I would imagine would be quite a meeting. I would be... in trepidation to a degree if that was the person I was going to meet, my new in-laws, as it were, if I was Doria Ragland. But as you say, there's been so much speculation about who will walk Meghan down the aisle. Just a quick look at some of the papers. I mean, we're looking at them as well here. I've been listening into your conversation. So this is The Guardian. A lot of them have got the photo, which you showed in the Telegraph, of Meghan and Harry, who came here yesterday. And that was a real surprise. We weren't expecting them here. But they were doing a bit of a flyby whilst the military were doing the rehearsal of the carriage procession, and that brought so much delight to the many members of public who are here at the moment. This is The Sun, which focuses on that story you've just talked about. I'm so sad about Dad. It talks a lot about the fact that, of course, she really did want her father to walk her down the aisle. She wanted both her mother and father to be here tomorrow to have key roles. And just unusually, we don't do this normally on the briefing, but I thought I'd show you some of the girly magazines. So this is Grazia, talking about Meghan, the most powerful woman in fashion. And in this article, it talks about a lot. Who will be making her dress it will be revealed tomorrow which designer brand will make Meghan's dress, and the impact she has when she wears certain brands, certain fashion brands, jewellery, eyewear, etc., how the sales of those items literally skyrocket the moment she's seen anywhere wearing anything. They estimate the Meghan effect in Grazia adds £500 million to the fashion industry.
Right, it's the dress and the cosmetics that Richard and I are hanging on, actually. Sally, thank you very much indeed.
I can imagine.
Yeah, quite.
I can imagine.
Exactly. Look, Richard, you know, you could think that Britain could be accused of just going overboard on all this, but as we're reflecting in the papers, the world is going overboard on it. The Le Figaro we're having a look at now, talking about the marriage, which is sort of tipping the royal family upside down in terms of modernisation, etc. And the Washington Post, which takes almost the exact opposite view. You know, I had a quick look at Le Figaro's website. It is packed with stories from all angles, as much as you'd expect over here.
The fact is, this is a global media story. The royal family are a global media sensation for so many reasons, possibly to do with the legacy of the British Empire. The Figaro highlighting her prominence as an American, a divorcee, of mixed race. The polar opposite, though, the polar opposite perspective in the Washington Post by their global opinions editor, no less. She is writing this morning saying that Meghan will not be the modernising force Britain truly needs. Why? Because she won't be allowed to be outspoken on race issues because of the heavy restrictions placed on members of the royal family taking political standpoints. I disagree, personally. I think that the fact that she's not an aristocrat, in the same way that Kate Middleton is not an aristocrat, is a huge step forward for the royal family. Plus, from the impression we get so far is, like Harry, she's a great communicator. She can relate to real people on the street. So I think for many of us, this is a big step forward.
Although it'd be interesting, won't it? Because she is a very forceful character as well. She's forged her own career. She's been outspoken once or twice before. There's a little bit of, you'll have to button it.
Yeah, I think she's going to have to be diplomatic. But you've also got to remember, David, I mean, Harry is a brilliant communicator. He's grown up in the era of the modern media. He's learned the lessons from what happened to his mother, the way she was treated. He's learned his own lessons subsequently, and he is going to be able to help her on this journey, as well as the army of people they have at Clarence House protecting them.
Well, the story gets wider and wider. We're going to have a quick look at the South China Morning Post. I'm going to steal this quote because it's too much, isn't it? A fairy tale wedding it is not. It's between a balding prince, nothing wrong with that, and a former small-time American actress. So they can't help but focus on it, but they're trying to create a suggestion. They're baffled as to why there's so much interest.
Yeah, and I think here the question is, there are other royal families around the world, but, why does the British royal family reign supreme? Again, I think it possibly goes back to the legacy of the empire, the vast global English-speaking media as well, which sort of has such an influence. But it's not surprising, is it, that some people in some parts of the world get a little bit frustrated at the disproportionate impact that the royal family have.
But recognising, even referencing Hong Kong, about this sort of a nostalgia for what was, whether it actually was as people like to think it was or not. But the greater the history, the more, obviously, fascination it seems.
Yeah, and even if you're frustrated by it, I mean, you can bet your bottom dollar that over the coming days, and I think beyond that, the coverage that this couple will garner, will continue. What they do is going to be an object of immense fascination for many media around the world in all markets.
Yeah, right. Another institution which could do with a bit of a push, a bit of a leg up, is the FA Cup, taking place on the same day. Come on, are you going to sit down and watch the wedding or the FA Cup, or both or neither?
Why should the two be mutually exclusive? I want to know what the outcome is on both. And the timing is good for us. You've got the royal wedding at 12 noon in Windsor. You've got the FA Cup final later in the afternoon at 5:15. This article is quite interesting because this guy in Shortlist is saying he's going to be standing outside St George's Chapel in Windsor with a mini Union Jack, tears streaming down my face. It's all a bit tongue-in-cheek. But, hey, look, this is bringing the country together, isn't it?
Get out and enjoy it. I hope we know the result of one of those two and we await the result of the other. Let's hope it's that way round. Richard, great to chat with you. Thanks very much indeed. And thanks for watching The Briefing. Bye for now.
Hello there. Well, for most of the UK, Thursday was a glorious, sunny, dry day. Saw so many Weather Watcher picture scenes like this one in Warrington in Cheshire of the flowerful fields and shrubs with the blue skies above, and a lovely end to the day with some gorgeous sunsets. But like the last few nights, temperatures really falling away under those clear skies, particularly across eastern Scotland. For much of England and Wales, close to freezing one or two places with a touch of frost, in fact, but not so much for the north and the west of the UK. To Western Scotland, Northern Ireland here, a veil of cloud will continue to move in off the Atlantic, so it'll be a less cold here to start Friday. But a chilly start elsewhere. Another lovely sunny one expected for England and Wales. More cloud, though, across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Could spoil things a little bit. There'll still be some holes in there. So have some sunny spells. And those